now we are going to be having a chat with Marc Aafjes, who is the founder and CEO of Deliberate AI. And really excited to get to spend some time with Marc again. It's been a little while, so welcome.
Thank you. Can you see me okay? Here we go.
I think so.
Here we go.
But thank you so much. And I'm excited to get to chat a bit about, mental health care in the innovation space and the work that you're doing. Before we jump into some of the questions, could you just share a little bit of background about yourself? Obviously, you're the founder and CEO of Deliberate AI, but is there anything else you'd like to share?
I actually came to this from a slightly different background than most folks in mental health specifically. I came to this as a kind of true lived experience and really kind of, I guess, experiencing the subjectivity that's really hampering mental health. And that's really kind of been a foundational principle in what we're trying to achieve with Deliberate Health and Deliberate AI is how can we kind of add more objectivity to mental and behavioral health. So that's maybe helpful. I guess the rest of our team is a combination of psychiatrists, neuroscientists, computational scientists, but I came to this kind of really wanted to make a difference through my own lived experience. So for those other people out there, kind of that's a good motivator, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thanks for really diving into this space because it is an area of great need around the US and around the globe. So obviously, AI is a big topic today and everywhere. So from your perspective, how do you envision AI transforming the mental health landscape, over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I think we're in a super exciting time, as you say as well, kind of, Amy. I think one of the things that I think is specifically relevant for mental health is if we look at it, we don't really understand many of the causes and mechanisms of mental health, right? So kind of key problems we see today is that we have poor diagnosis, poor detection of problems. So it's either too late or incorrectly diagnosed. We see typically poor outcomes. Treatment is trial and error. New therapy development, specifically drug development, has much higher failure rates than other therapeutic areas. And we have this issue of access, right, where we have limited clinicians that are overwhelmed with kind of the demands put on them, and costs are pretty high. So from an AI perspective, I think kind of the first kind of impact AI will have is specifically multimodal AI, which I can get back into later, where we can really start to combine kind of information signals that weren't available before, such as through wearables, kind of audiovisual info. It can really help us improve our understanding of the mechanisms of mental health. So kind of better understanding what is driving it, what are the social determinants contributing to it. And then the second thing that will enable us to do is actually develop and provide better treatments that are more personalized. So how do we kind of better organize clinical trials? How do we better identify maybe drug candidates that are more likely to succeed? How do we design trials to make sure that they get tested? And how do we make sure that treatments are personalized to the treatments that are going to help that particular individual? And then the third area, I think, is really around kind of finding ambient intelligence to kind of do earlier and better diagnosis. How can we more quickly pick up on early onset of mental health conditions? And the final thing, I guess, is kind of it's also really allowing for a lot of productivity improvement. So kind of AI scribes are an example where we can offload a lot of the administrative burden for clinicians. And even kind of bringing digital therapeutics, digital assessments to kind of also help kind of drive that improvement to open up access to care by basically offloading a lot of the things that are keeping clinicians from doing that work. So those would be kind of the 4 areas that I think are going to be impacted most.
Well, it's very exciting, and it'll be interesting to see the speed at which it transforms as well, because obviously AI has a tremendous ability to make things go, to accelerate. So it's going to be really interesting to see, at the pace at which those things are starting to transform. But thanks for your perspective on that. It's really insightful. And from a deliberate AI standpoint, can you share or explain how your AI technology works to actually support, mental health care.
Yeah.
And what are you looking to solve? What problem are you looking to solve?
So as I said at the very beginning, like one of the biggest problems we have is this subjectivity, right? So we set out to really kind of how do we get to a point that we can more objectively measure things, and by measurement kind of inform treatment plans, inform drug clinical trials, and basically kind of help both improve diagnostics as well as clinical intelligence. But the way we're doing it, so we look at like areas like oncology where biomarkers have had a huge impact in kind of personalized medicine, precision medicine. That hasn't really happened in kind of mental health. And part of the reason is that we have these kind of really rich kind of correlations, but kind of many of these individual correlations don't explain enough or aren't precise enough. So what we're doing with deliberate AI is we're taking a multimodal AI approach where we say, rather than looking at individual things such as speech or kind of facial emotional expression or wearable information, how do we combine that data into models that are actually much more predictive and have a much higher level of accuracy and actionability? So we're doing it. And as an example, we started with audio-visual information, behavioral analysis, which is particularly relevant for mental health. And we started expanding into EEG and continuous passive sensing. Our kind of, I guess we're most known currently for our first model, which we call AI COA, or AI Clinical Outcome Assessment, is the first model the FDA accepted earlier this year as a novel kind of endpoint candidate for psychiatric depression and anxiety trials. So this will be the first AI, first digital health technology, first project in psychiatry and neuroscience that is really on track to become kind of a novel primary endpoint for these trials. So that's the kind of work we're doing. We're doing other work with DARPA around better prediction of suicidal risk. And we announced kind of last week that together with Mount Sinai, our consortium led by Mount Sinai in New York, we were awarded a $20 million NIMH grant to come up with individual personalized phenotypes to really kind of better inform how can we kind of provide better prognosis for people when they get into contact with mental health clinicians for the first time. So that's some of the
That's
work we're
amazing.
doing. Very exciting. Yeah.
Congrats on that. That's outstanding. It really is. You're really driving change, which is critical. And mental health crosses so many different areas of challenges and need. Well, when we talk about AI, obviously one of the big topics is always the accuracy of the data. Can we trust the data? Is there bias introduced? And how do you guys manage that in the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
relative to mental health and just the data that you're using?
Yeah. No, so this is a super important area, not just generally, I guess, in AI and healthcare, but even more so within mental health, I would kind of argue. A couple of things we're doing. So there is a whole element around kind of how do you build models? And one of the benefits we have of being part of this pilot program with the FDA, although we're guinea pigs, we get some preferential access as well to kind of really think through how does clinical validation, how do kind of robust machine learning models work? So first of all, which is kind of table stakes, is that the data that's being used to train models needs to be diverse. So kind of across demographic groups, different sites, different age groups, all those kind of things. But some of the things that are less understood is it also needs to be balanced. So we're not training, for instance, classification models for simple diagnostics, but we're actually trying to measure severity. And the only way to do that isn't the way you do typical clinical trials. You actually need to make sure that kind of the groups that you're sampling from are balanced across severity, that you have a similar size subgroup that you can actually compare with. So that's something we spend a lot of time. I think the third kind of most important thing is that we very much believe in explainability. So we spend a lot of effort in creating explainable models using techniques such as Shapley analysis that really allow us to say, well, why is a model giving this particular rating on severity, or somebody's predicting to a treatment response? And by doing that, we can kind of quantify why the model is saying, like, it's this factor that's contributing to the prediction or kind of measurement of this person on these scales. So yeah, those are the things that we're doing. And then finally, I think for any production model, there's a continuous tracking that needs to happen to make sure there's no model drift. And we have kind of procedures for that as well.
That's great. And Because I know that's a huge challenge for a lot of organizations and a lot of people focusing, leveraging AI with data. So that sounds like you guys have a really good, solid handle on it and are managing it really, really well, which is great and just makes a more credible offering. So early when at the top of the conversation, you'd shared sort of your sort of perspective on the four areas of opportunity in the future of mental health. And as we close out, what role do you hope your company will be playing as you think about the future of mental health in healthcare and in technology, and as healthcare is evolving and changing with all these innovations?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I think we've seen a lot of venture funding coming into digital kind of mental health, and a lot of that has actually geared towards kind of those that try to improve access and basically the provider models. Now, there's often an element of technologies being added to that, but kind of often those that started off with technologies, just companies like Mindstrong, that's now kind of defunct, have switched to kind of more provider operations. We're not doing that. So we really believe that in order to improve mental health, what we need to do beyond this, the next wave, is we really need technology to improve outcomes. We need better treatments. We need better therapies to kind of help with that. So our focus is very much around how do we ensure that technology is there? And we are doing that across three areas, really, kind of helping to come up with advanced diagnostics and monitoring. So how do we really emphasize technology to do that? Secondly is kind of precision therapy enablement. So we're not doing the precision therapy, but how can we help drug development and clinical care kind of tailor their solution to that? And thirdly is what we call ambient clinical intelligence. So how do we move beyond kind of digital scribes to kind of measure people at home in clinical encounters to get much richer information that can be more proactive as elements occur. So those are the three areas that we're hoping to play a role in the exciting future and AI revolution that's about to start, I feel.
Well, and what I love about what you just shared, really the heart of it is collaboration, working with others to enable, support, and optimize and create that synergy that we need. So it's super exciting. And what you're doing is amazing. And congrats on all your success. Before we end our session, is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
No, besides the fact that if people are kind of excited about this space and are looking for partners in pushing this forward, we're always looking for collaborators. So feel free to reach out, and happy to talk and see what we can do together. Because
That's
it
an
takes a
amazing
village, as you
invitation.
know, Amy.
That's an amazing invitation. And I strongly encourage everyone here to bombard your LinkedIn with collaboration invitations. But thank you so much, Mark. It's nice to see you again and look forward to
Likewise.
catching up in the future as well.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Amy. Bye.
You got it. Take care.